I'm Liz Kanoy with Crosswalk.com. Today I'm talking with Laura Story. She has a new book titled When God Doesn't Fix It from Thomas Nelson. In your book, you talk about your husband being diagnosed with a brain tumor and the challenges that brought to your life. How has your expectations changed of how God would fix the situation since you initially got the diagnosis?
When we initially got the diagnosis, I think it never occurred to us that God wouldn't fix it. That's part of it. We had met with a neurosurgeon that gave us this, I'll never forget, he gave us this pamphlet that talked about, day 1, Martin would have surgery. Day 2 and 3, he'd spend in the ICU. Day 4, he'd be in a regular room. And day 5, he'd be discharged. And I remember holding on to that pamphlet all up until about 3 months of our hospital stay, and finally just crumpling up and throwing it into the trash and realizing, God, he's not tied to even the best of doctors. He's not tied to that person's plan. He's not tied to my plan. But he is a God who is so much more about bringing us to a place of faith and a place of trust and saying, not my plan, but yours be done.
What truths have you learned after getting this diagnosis and living with it for over a decade?
There's something about suffering that it takes away all pretense. It takes away, you get to a point where you have to almost redefine your faith. Everything that you thought you knew about who God is and everything you thought you understood about the promises of the Bible, you have to look at them in a new way when you reach those new circumstances. My relationship with the Lord is the only thing that is sure in life. My husband's health is not sure. My future is not secure. That my future is only secure in the sense that it is held in God's hands. It's not necessarily going to look like the way that I planned, but that's what encourages me all the more, just to trust my Heavenly Father and believe that His plans for me are good.
You break down common myths about God, which you already talked about some, and you replace them with truths that you've learned. What is the biggest myth that you would want to shatter for your readers?
That the trial that they are in the midst of, that they're there because God doesn't love them, or because God doesn't care about them, or because He's far away from them. Like, I think about how many times in the scriptures the Lord says, I am with you always. And I think that He says it not just because it's true, but I think He says it because He knows that the readers 2,000 years later are going to have those moments of wondering, where is God in the midst of this? Whether it's a woman walking through a hard divorce, or whether it's living in a hard marriage, whether it's living with singleness, or a woman struggling with infertility, or a man struggling with unemployment. And there is this temptation of thinking, if my life isn't going the way that I want it to, then God must have forgotten me. Our spiritual life can't be based on our feelings. It's based on the truths of God. And He says, I know you're going to feel this way, but the reality is I am with you now and forever.
That's a beautiful reality.
Absolutely, that.
And then alternatively, what's the biggest truth that you would want your readers to understand?
The biggest truth is that God desires to use even the most broken chapters of our story to showcase His faithfulness. He's not the author of sin, and he hates sin more than we could ever imagine. But He's still, in His sovereignty, He is a powerful enough God to showcase, to shine His light through our brokenness. And I believe that's how He gets the most glory, when we're willing to share those hard chapters.